in the year 793 AD, beneath the haunting glow of the aurora borealis that rippled like spirits across the skies of ancient Scandinavia, an event unfolded that would forever change the course of Norse history. The night was unnaturally still. No howling wolves, no crashing waves against the rugged cliffs, only a deep, unspoken anticipation, as though the world itself held its breath. High atop the timbered watchtower of Norheim, a fortified Viking settlement nestled between fjords and dense pine forests, stood Rurik Ironblade, a fierce chieftain known throughout the land for his crimson hair and unyielding resolve in battle. His eyes, sharp from years spent watching for raiders and wild beasts, now fixed on a disturbance in the heavens, a strange brilliance unlike any star or comet, descending with controlled purpose through the mist-veiled sky. The object, a silvery vessel shaped like no known creature or contraption, gleamed with an inner light that shimmered like molten moonlight. It moved not like falling debris but with intelligent precision, slowing as it approached the earth, its surface without seam or flaw, gleaming like a sword fresh from the forge. It landed in the heart of the Elder Grove, a sacred forest believed to be the dwelling of ancient spirits and gods, a place both feared and revered by the Norlanders. At once Rurik descended from the tower, sounding the great war horn that echoed through the valley, summoning his most trusted warriors. Clad in fur-lined iron and wielding axes etched with runes of protection, they marched into the frost-kissed woods, hearts pounding with a mixture of awe, fear, and reverence. As they approached the site, an unnatural silence gripped the forest, as if even the trees dared not speak. The clearing where the vessel had landed glowed with an otherworldly light, its hue neither fire nor moon but something ancient and unfamiliar. Without a single mark of earthly construction, the vessel stood like a monument to a forgotten power. Then, with a sound like steam escaping from a mountain vent, a ramp lowered from the craft's underside, and from within emerged beings that defied every known description of life. Towering and slender, their forms seemed to bend light itself, their skin a shifting sheen of silver and opal, their eyes vast and unblinking like twin galaxies. They wore robes that shimmered with stardust, and moved not as mortals, but with a grace that suggested they were forged from the fabric of the cosmos. These were the Luminari, messengers from beyond the veil of known space, and they did not speak with mouths, but with thoughts that resonated directly within the minds of the Norse warriors. "We come in peace, children of Earth," they said, a chorus of voices both young and ancient echoing through the consciousness of all present. For a heartbeat, none moved. Rurik's warriors, men who had stared down bears and sea serpents, now stood trembling, not out of cowardice but the sheer majesty of what they beheld. But Rurik, chieftain and son of the gods by blood and oath, stepped forward with a voice forged in courage. He demanded to know their purpose, their intentions in sacred Norland. In response, the Luminari opened their minds to him and his kin, projecting visions of the universe, planets aflame, stars devoured, civilizations extinguished by a dark, ancient force older than time itself. This force, a monstrous entity that consumed light and life wherever it reached, had now turned its gaze toward Earth, drawn by the surge of human thought, emotion, and spiritual energy that emanated from the planet like a beacon. The Luminari had traveled across galaxies in search of kindred spirits who would stand against the coming darkness, not for conquest, but for alliance. And in the Norse, they saw not just warriors, but guardians of Earth's primal strength. They offered knowledge beyond comprehension, celestial maps, technologies that defied gravity and time, and truths that shattered the boundaries of myth and reality. Yet the price was steep. They would train and prepare not for a war of men but of stars and shadows. Rurik turned to his warriors, their faces lit by the dual glow of moonlight and alien luminance. He saw in them the echo of gods and the resilience of Earth itself. Then facing the Luminari, he spoke with thunder in his voice. "We are the blood of Thor, the sons of Odin, and the keepers of these lands. If war comes from the stars, then we shall meet it, not in fear but in the glory of battle and the defense of our world." And so, under the celestial dance of the aurora, a pact was forged between the Norlanders and the Luminari, a convergence of myth and science, of sword and starlight. marking the beginning of a saga that would be sung not just in mead halls, but among the stars. As the days passed following the descent of the Luminari, the once isolated Norland village of Norheim became the center of a historic convergence between two vastly different worlds. Where once the forge rang only with the sound of iron against anvil, now it echoed with the hum of alien instruments and celestial knowledge. The alliance between the Norlanders and the Luminari, forged beneath the shimmering auroras, began to take form, not just in solemn oaths and shared meals, but in the melding of their strengths. Chieftain Rurik Ironblade, ever the fearless leader, stood at the forefront of this transformation, overseeing a new era in which ancient Norse traditions met the technologies of a civilization that had sailed among stars. His warriors, once hesitant, now worked side by side with the Luminari, crafting weapons of unmatched power, blades infused with radiant energy, shields that repelled more than just arrows, and armor that shimmered like night skies. The village of Norheim transformed into a stronghold unlike any on Earth, fortified not only with stone and timber, but with alien alloys and energy barriers. Among the Luminari, one being in particular became a bridge between the two peoples, Seren of the Starlit Vale, a radiant envoy whose mind carried knowledge older than Earth's continents, and whose gaze seemed to see into the soul. It was she who found in Rurik a kindred spirit, not only a warrior but a protector, driven by duty rather than pride. Their bond deepened with each passing night beneath the twin lights of the aurora and the alien moonstone lanterns the Luminari brought. They shared stories, Rurik of the sagas sung by skalds and gods who walked among men, and Seren of stellar forges, sentient nebulae, and time-bending civilizations. Love, it seemed, did not obey the boundaries of species or star, and in their unity, many saw a symbol of what could be. Harmony between the grounded and the ascended, between the primal and the enlightened. Yet not all hearts beat in rhythm with the alliance. Valrik Stormborn, Rurik's blood brother and once his closest friend, harbored a festering unease. A traditionalist at heart, Valrik viewed the Luminari as silent invaders cloaked in benevolence, their gifts veiled attempts at domination. His loyalty to Norland was unshaken, but his vision of its future differed bitterly. He saw Rurik's bond with Seren not as a bridge but a betrayal, a forsaking of their gods, their stories, their very essence. While the village marveled at floating stones and healing rays, Valrik convened in the shadows with other skeptics, warriors, seers, and smiths, who whispered that this alliance risked the soul of their people. He warned that Norheim's strength had always come from its blood, sweat, and spirit, not borrowed stars. Beware gifts wrapped in light, he would say. They may blind before they burn. Still the alliance advanced. With Seren's guidance and Rurik's command, Norland's defenses were strengthened. The Luminary taught the Norlanders to harness geothermal energy from the hot springs beneath the mountains, and in return, the Norlanders shared their unmatched resilience, survival skills, and intimate knowledge of Earth's untamed elements. Rituals once dedicated solely to Odin and Thor were now shared with reverence to both gods and stars. The forge became a temple of both fire and light. Children grew up hearing tales of both Midgard and Andralis, the Luminari's home star. What began as a fearful truce slowly bloomed into something sacred, a shared purpose in the face of an approaching galactic darkness. The alliance was no longer a political necessity, but a living bond forged from steel and starlight, myth and science, a unity destined to either withstand the abyss or be shattered by it. In the quiet hours beneath the twin veils of the northern lights and the soft glow of the Luminari's celestial lanterns, something rare and profound took root between two souls from vastly different worlds, Rurik Ironblade, chieftain of the Norlanders, and Seraphine of the Starlit Vale, envoy of the Luminari. What began as mutual respect forged through shared purpose blossomed into something deeper, unspoken yet undeniable. Rurik, forged by earth and blood, a man of valor and battle, found in Seraphine a reflection of a different strength, one born not of might, but of wisdom that flowed like starlight through her every word and gesture. Seraphine, whose people had long transcended the bounds of passion and emotion in favor of logic and harmony, felt something stir within her whenever she stood beside him. a warmth, a gravity that no star had ever taught her to navigate. They were opposites in form and essence. He scarred and strong, with hands that had shaped iron and cleaved foes. She ethereal and luminous, her every movement an echo of cosmic grace. Yet, in the long evenings spent sharing tales, laughter, and silence, they built a bridge between their realms, a bond that defied the laws of both culture and nature. Seraphine spoke of constellations that sang in ancient tongues, of galaxies at war and peace, while Rurik told of gods who drank mead in Valhalla, and ancestors whose valor echoed through time. Each story was a thread, and soon a tapestry of trust and affection bound them closer than either dared admit aloud. But theirs was no simple love. It was forbidden in the eyes of both their people. For the Norlanders, Seraphine was an outsider, a being not of Midgard but of unknown skies, whose presence stirred fears of cultural erosion and divine betrayal. Among the Luminari, emotional entanglements with what they considered temporal species were seen as distractions, even regressions. For Seraphine, to love a human was akin to choosing a fleeting moment over eons of purpose. And yet, love does not ask permission. It blooms in defiance, fed by shared gazes, quiet gestures, and the shared hope of a united future. Their bond became both beacon and burden. It inspired many in Norheim to embrace the possibility of coexistence, but also deepened the resentment of those like Valrik Stormborn, who believed Rurik was being led astray by an alien enchantress. Behind guarded eyes, Valrik concealed a long-burning affection for Seraphine, twisted into jealousy by her choice. To him, their love was not a union, but a corruption of Norland's soul. In hushed gatherings, he fanned the flames of fear, whispering that this bond was proof of alien manipulation, that even their strongest leader could be bent to their will. Yet even as whispers turned to threats, Rurik and Seraphine held to their truth. In hidden moments, beneath pine canopies dusted with snow, beside the forge where Norland steel and luminary crystal met, they found solace in each other. Each kiss, each glance was a rebellion against the tide of hatred rising around them. They knew their bond might one day cost them everything, their leadership, their people, even their lives, but they also knew it was worth the risk. For in a world teetering on the edge of cosmic war and internal collapse, their love was the one unshakable constant, proof that even across worlds, even between stars and soil, hearts could still beat in harmony. And so, the tale of Rurik and Seraphine, warrior and envoy, fire and light, became a legend not just of love, but of what love can withstand. A tale of how even in the shadow of the unknown, two hearts can shine so brightly, they illuminate the path for entire civilizations. In the shadowed corners of Norheim's frostbitten forests, where torchlight flickered like warning beacons and suspicion coiled through the air like smoke, a storm began to brew, silent but deadly. At its center stood Cale Thornheart, once the sworn brother-in-arms of Chieftain Rurik, now the voice of a growing rebellion. Where once loyalty bound Cale to the Norland banner, he now bore the mantle of a man disillusioned, his heart poisoned by fear, pride, and a love unspoken for the luminous Seraphine. To him, the alliance with the Luminari was a betrayal, not only of Norland's traditions but of his personal dreams and unvoiced affections. Watching Rurik and Seraphine grow closer was like watching his world unravel, and in that unraveling, Cale found purpose, or vengeance. Cale's dissent did not erupt in open defiance at first. It germinated quietly, like rot beneath the surface. He began with whispers, careful conversations beneath the crackle of bonfire smoke and mead-fueled banquets. He spoke to those already uneasy, stirring their latent doubts. "What have these starborn truly given us?" he would ask, voice low and persuasive. "Is their power worth the price of our soul?" His charisma, once a boon in battle, now served darker aims. He painted the Luminari not as allies, but as interlopers, silent usurpers cloaked in cosmic grace, bent on shaping Norheim in their alien image. Each word sowed another seed of fear, each nod another root in the fertile soil of unrest. But Cale did not act alone. From the disenfranchised blacksmith whose tools had been replaced with Luminari tech, To the elder warriors who found themselves sidelined by alien battle tactics, Kale forged a faction, a brotherhood bound not by trust in the future, but by longing for the past. They called themselves the Iron Vow, a secretive group whose mission was simple: sever the alliance before it severed their heritage. Under Kale's guidance, they trained in secret, plotted in silence, and waited for the perfect moment to strike. Not in battle, but in betrayal. His rhetoric grew bolder with each gathering. "We are not children to be guided by starlight," he declared during one clandestine meeting beneath the old stone cairns, "but sons of the frost, born of blood and storm. We must rise before all that we are is swallowed by the alien dawn." Those words, draped in the guise of patriotism, became the rallying cry for dissent. Yet beneath Kale's righteous veneer, darker motives pulsed: jealousy, ambition, and a desire to eclipse Rurik not just in the eyes of their people but in Seraphine's heart. Kale's plan reached its zenith in the days before the Yule gathering. Under the pretense of a training expedition, he led a detachment of loyalists into the outer woods, not to prepare for war, but to sabotage it. They met with saboteurs, discussed means of dismantling Luminary tech, and worst of all, conceived a plot to take Seraphine hostage, believing that removing the alien envoy would force Rurik's hand and shatter the fragile alliance. Kale cloaked the plan in the language of necessity, but its roots ran far deeper. To a man who could not bear to be second, who would rather destroy a bridge than see another walk across it. The seeds of treason had been planted, watered by fear and jealousy, and now they began to bloom. The village stood unaware, on the edge of a blade, with its fate balanced between unity and upheaval. And Kale, once hero, now architect of rebellion, watched the skies not in wonder but in quiet defiance, waiting for the moment when Norheim would rise again, not as a world joined with the stars, but as one reclaimed by fire and steel. As the icy breath of winter swept through the valleys of Norheim and snow blanketed the land in ghostly white, the time-honored feast of Yule approached, a celebration meant to honor the endurance of light through darkness, a symbol of unity for the Norse clans. But this year, beneath the songs, the roasted meats, and the bonfires crackling against the cold, a darker current pulsed. The village stood unknowingly on the edge of its greatest trial. The plot woven in shadows by Kale and his dissenters had ripened. Their plan was simple in its cruelty: kidnap Seraphine, the Luminary envoy, and force Chieftain Rurik to abandon the fragile alliance with the Starborn visitors. With her gone, the dissenters believed the village would awaken from what they deemed a spell of alien influence and reclaim their proud isolation. Unaware of the full scope of the treachery, Rurik and Seraphine moved cautiously. Whispers of unrest had reached their ears, but the full breadth of betrayal remained hidden, until Freya, a young warrior once loyal to Kale, but now swayed by the deep bond she had witnessed between Seraphine and Rurik, chose courage over conspiracy. She rushed through the snow-swept night, breath steaming in the bitter air, and warned them of the impending attack. "They will strike during the Yule feast, when our guard is down, when trust is highest." Her voice trembled not with fear but with urgency, and her words shattered the illusion of peace like frost underfoot. Rurik immediately called a secret council of his most trusted warriors and Luminary allies. In those tense hours before the feast, strategies were devised not just to protect Seraphine, but to confront the growing rift within their people. Weapons forged from Norland steel and Luminary crystal were quietly readied. Seraphine, despite the threat to her life, insisted on attending the feast, refusing to let fear dictate the course of unity. "If we hide," she said, her voice as calm as starlight, "we confirm their fears, let them see us together." That night, the great hall of Norheim shimmered with firelight, laughter, and the haunting notes of string and song. Yet under the revelry, eyes watched, hearts tensed. Rurik stood beside Seraphine, his presence steady, a shield of calm amidst the approaching storm. He raised his voice over the clamor of celebration, delivering a speech not of war but of hope and resilience. "Tonight," he declared, "we do not stand as Norlanders or Luminari, but as kin united by courage. Let not fear be our law, nor betrayal our legacy." Outside in the cold shadows of the forest edge, Kale and his conspirators prepared to strike, but what they found instead was a village not divided, but resolute. The people, inspired by Rurik's words and Seraphine's grace, rose in solidarity. When Kale's plan was exposed, even some of his closest allies faltered, shamed by the unity they saw and the lives they almost shattered. A confrontation erupted, not a chaotic clash, but a reckoning of loyalty. Steel clanged in the snow, voices roared, and when it was done, Kyle stood defeated, not just by arms, but by the will of a people who had chosen light over darkness. The Yule fires burned long into the night, not merely in celebration, but as a beacon of rebirth. The Yule reckoning marked the moment Norheim chose not to recoil from the stars, but to embrace them. Rurik and Seraphine, scarred but unbroken, stood at the heart of a village reforged by fire and tested by treachery, stronger than before, united in purpose, and ready for whatever future the cosmos would bring.